was born in England,
Okay.
and I was reared, if you like, or raised in Northern Ireland
That's what I'm
during
hearing.
the
Yeah.
bombs, during the 70s,
Oh,
early 70s.
wow. Wow.
And um, and then when I was about 16, I left school and moved back to England.
Okay.
And then I've been all over the place since then.
So you grew up in Ireland in the 70s. That's
In
pretty.
Northern Ireland, near Belfast, yeah.
Wow. Because, I was born in 61 and I grew up obviously in the U.S. And okay, the stream should be coming back now. I just got the message. And yeah, I was there in the late 60s when all that stuff was going down. So that was interesting. But
Yeah, I was
I remember
born in 69.
69. Yeah, I remember all that stuff in Northern Ireland as much as we would get it here. I just tagged you. I'm going to take another minute to share it to the Soulogy platforms. Yeah, I remember that. It was my brother and my aunts and uncles were like say 10 years older than me. They were all teenagers and surfers and hippies, and my brother was 3 years older than me, and very well read, which I followed in his footsteps. And so I was pretty well versed in that stuff up there. But yeah, that was some wild stuff. To be thinking that was going on in contemporary times. Okay, let's
Yeah.
see. Well, let's make sure everything is copacetic. It looks like it. Yes. All right. Let me just put your name up on the board so everybody knows who you are. Okay. All right. Here we go. Today is February 26th in the Northern Hemisphere. I'm in La Pinita de Jaltemba, Nayarit, Mexico, just outside of the Puerto Vallarta complex, which is looking pretty good now. And it's the Southern Hemisphere. It's February 27th. This is a special show. I screwed up the date, so it's the only show today. It was going to be my day off. But I'm happy to be here with my beautiful sister, soul sister, Stellar. A lot of people know her. She's very tapped in, like a lot of the sisters that have been coming on the show. And we've known each other a long time. We did some work several years ago. We are just laughing because I usually say like, oh, it was 3 years ago. No, this is like 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, right? But this is the ascension, and we're collapsing time and now collapsing space. It's an interesting thing. Let me just roll this out real quick. I do, I go online. I don't put up a lot of posts like I used to, but I put up the stuff I need to, for the show and, just pick up different energies and such. And I saw a post, and we can't remember what it was, but I can remember the theme of it. So I saw a post that Stellar put up a couple of weeks ago, 2.5, 3 weeks ago. I sent her a note, and the post was kind of, by the old terms, a bit radical, which I really like, talking about some of the contemporary issues and the light worker starseed disposition that, or lack thereof, on these issues, and how, and this is something I've been talking about on the shows, how we're going to talk about it. So I'm not going to get into it. But anyway, I sent her a message. Then I chickened out, which isn't really my style, and I deleted it. And she wrote me and said, Todd, did you message me? And I'm like, yes, I did. And then I told her why. And then she's like, let's go on and talk about this. Then they had a big storm in France and chaos in Puerto Vallarta. And here we are after the aftermath. But yeah, welcome, Soul Sister Stellar. Welcome. Thank you for all your service to humanity. You're like so many of these sisters that have been in, even though you a little bit more public than some of them are, but y'all have really been the glue all these years, and you were finally here, regardless of all the BS and fuckery out there, and apparent presentation of further perpetuating illusion and deception. We are really expanding from the inside out, and we know that's how we change the game. So thank you for showing up today. Thank you for showing up on the earth, and it's good to see you.
Oh, Todd, it's lovely to see you again, and thank you so much for reconnecting, boldly, and we're gonna reveal some uncomfortable truths tonight. But it's all very much part of the ascension process. And there's something very beautiful that lies at the other side of that. So I'm honored to be your guest today. Thank you.
Thank you. You just put up a post 3 days ago, and I'm just going to kind of paraphrase, read through it real quick, and show you some pictures as well. So you're talking about an update that you had promised. These future selves, rather than aliens, came to have a meeting with us as my beloved and I are specialists in the sort of work that was about to be conducted, an extraction of sorts and a huge cleanup of the tunnel systems and underground bases. They were wondering how to go about it and what would be the terms and conditions of such an operation. We reminded them that a spiritual equity would be served to all the perpetrators of violence against all these beings and children trapped, and that they would be an amnesty for 2 weeks of earth time so they could redeem and turn to the light. They still would have to be accountable for the wrongdoings in the light of divine law. But there was a window of opportunity to redeem and receive amnesty. And as all of the perpetrators were wronged, down a huge line of chain of ancestral events, which involved them having their God seed removed. So they were offered their God seeds back, qualities of conscience, empathy, remorse, and some may take this, although not all will. They know very little about the power of love and how it is the most powerful force in the universe. A 2-week window is now open. This is 3 days ago, people. A 2-week window is now open for redemption, and if not possible, they will go through the normal trials and tribunals in the Supreme High Courts. All have been served spiritual equity, which means they all have to be accountable for violations of free will, destruction of innocence, and violating divine laws. There's more to share, but these pictures are being emanated. So let me put these pictures up real quick so we can get an idea, and maybe you have some comments on it. Boom. Okay, here we go. Oops. Let me figure out how to do this. Okay, there it is. I can
Click
go
on
here.
one.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now,
So that was actually on the 17th on the eclipse, and when we were displaced, Todd. We were originally going to meet, I think, around that time, and then we got displaced with another massive storm. And so I was doing what I do every month, which is a Sonic Christ Code work, where we work with the Supreme High Council. And literally, as I started the third call of the day, I received two massive tremors. And it was like, because we were working with the Earth's um, tectonic plates, we were working with the seismic energies. And all of a sudden, all the ships came in to basically close down the portal. They were trying to create mega tsunamis and all sorts of tidal waves, working with the water, working with the tectonic plates, slamming them shut, and creating all sorts of water displacement, aka, Atlantis. So that just shows you the array that showed up for that work, which is really incredible.
wow, that is incredible. It really is. Let's see here. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I call this the cosmic poodle. So just
Wow.
incredible
Now,
in our
is
skies.
this in South France too?
This
Is
is
this?
done in the Pyrenees, yeah, in the south of
Wow.
France. And they're just showing up. Like if you keep going through the other photos, you'll see we got
God.
this. We got the, yeah. There's like the cetaceans, the cosmic cetaceans, like a dolphin frequency energy coming through, and yeah, I mean they were just everywhere. There was unmistakable that there
Wow.
was coming through from the other dimensions, and
Now,
yeah, just incredible.
so this was coinciding with what the work that you were doing on that particular day.
Yes. And we got, we work with oracles around the planet. We have 12 that we work with. And this particular chief oracle came through and she said, I'm getting the message that they're laying down some kind of ladder and they're coming down to speak with you. And so they came down to speak with us because John, my beloved, and I, we've been together now for 9 years on the planet. He's a walk-in soul. And we got the memo that they want to have a roundtable meeting. And so we were discussing the way forward. And the way forward was to clean out the tunnel systems through the Rose Line, all the way down to Antarctica, and all the way around the planet. And
Okay.
so
Well,
we
okay. Whoa.
we had a
Whoa.
chat about the terms and conditions
Well,
of
hang
that.
on. I want to make sure. I haven't. I've always wanted to dive into these subjects, and and there hasn't been a lot known about them that wasn't coming from a charged state. You're carrying, you and your beloved John, thank you, John, are carrying something different, and your 12 Oracle friends. Let me say this first. I didn't get to tell you this before the show, but looking at some of those pictures, there's a couple of them. They have like this horizontal oval thing going on, right? And I'll tell everybody this. If you go look at the show that we did with the Soul Sister Raylene Brady yesterday, and you go just to the first, just watch from the beginning, the first 6 or 7 minutes. And I'm talking to her, and she's got a double pane window behind her, and on the left side, over her right shoulder, on the left side of the window, there's clouds, which is normal, but there's this one cloud that is a perfect oval that is just sitting there. And all the other clouds are moving. It's just sitting there, and it's very solid. And I said to her, Ray, do you see that? And she thought it was the lighting. She goes, oh, I think that's, and then she looks at it and goes, oh my God, yeah, yes, I do. So there's a connection. There's a connection there of some sort. So let me just get this straight. You,
Absolutely. Raylene and I are sisters
yeah,
for
of
sure.
course. I'd say you're Siamese twins. But so you're involved in this weekly with 12 oracles and your beloved. And let me just point out, there are many sisters and sister circles around this world that have been doing stuff like this every week, every month, for years
Oh,
and
it's a
years.
team effort
It's,
for
I know this is amazing. So this is nice to be able to have a set of eyes to go in and actually dissect this. Now, so what you're saying is that as you were doing your work, that one of the oracles, we received a message that they wanted to come down. Is that correct? And that how is this going to happen? Now, this is kind of where I got lost. And the explanation was we're going to go into the tunnels from essentially where you are all the way down to Antarctica. So there's a whole lot to unpack there. But is that the right story?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, these beings do not come to your front door, knock on the front door. They're working through telepathy, obviously, and energy signatures. They recognize the codes that you carry and the fact that you might have a vibration that can open certain doorways, and they want to get in there. So they wanted to find out through the oracle that we were working with what are the terms and conditions for the beings that are holding the children captive, and indeed many other spliced hybrids and
Okay.
everything else.
So okay, so what they were asking was, what are the terms and conditions of those that are, let's just call them the bad actors down underneath us, that are,
Perpetrating violence. Yeah, yeah.
yes, yes. What were their conditions? What those? Okay, go ahead.
No, what would the divine team wish to happen as terms and conditions
Okay, that
for
makes
the
sense.
extraction? Yeah, for the
Okay, that
extraction,
that
the
makes
innocence.
sense. That's what I was just reading. Okay, so this is the 2 week amnesty, etc. That I was just reading. Okay, so what happens next?
Well, into early March, they have a 2 week amnesty, and we, as part of the divine team and networks that are here, and there's many sisters and brothers and on and off planet working on all of this. I'm just voicing our part and the part that we were drawn into because we're specialists in cleaning out these energies, and we've been doing this in many other worlds and planets. So it was like, well, what are the terms and conditions for the ones? What do we do with them? What do we do with these parasitical energies that are feeding off innocence and purity and harvesting energy and doing dreadful things? And we'd already done a lot of prior work up in the Pyrenees in a very small principality up there that begins with A. I'm not going to say the word right now, but our teams had to wade through literal black goo and adrenochrome to get to the heart of this awful thing. I mean, anything you see, frazzle drip, everything looks like noddy compared to the space that we had to go into. And we shut down that generator. And the minute we shut down that generator, all the beautiful beings started to say, okay, we've seen this, we've seen the work you've done. And I guess that was credibility for the next part. And then they were like, you've got the codes and the vibration to be able to help us. So we've given the perpetrators of violence a 2 week amnesty. and a choice to redeem, because actually every soul gets a choice no matter what they've done. And I know that's really hard to hear when we're seeing so much perpetration of violence on children. And believe me, I'm the number one champion for the children. I'm the number one champion for justice for protective parents going through secret courts and all the rest of it. But when you come into the goddess frequency, you've got to be able to give these beings a choice. Otherwise, you're perpetrating black magic. You're just as good as them.
You're right.
So we've given them a 2 week window until the first end of the first week in March to choose whether they're going to redeem and come and serve the light and get their God seed back. Because actually, a lot of these beings had their God seed removed, which is why they've been so capable of creating so much chaos and so much hurt and pain and cruelty to our most beloved innocent children on the planet. A normal soul, with a soul that has the qualities of empathy and remorse, non-psychopathic souls would never do this to children. So there's been a huge cleanup there for those beings to be able to feel those qualities again, what it might be like to be empathic, to be the child that they're hurting. And so there's a 2 week amnesty for them to turn to the light. It doesn't mean they're going to get away with it. They're still going to have to go up into the Supreme High Council and High Courts of the heavenly realms and be accountable. But it means they have a chance to redeem, which is a very short window, and not many of them can, because they thrive off power, control, and
Mm-hmm.
the desecration of innocence. So we have to give them the option.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the mother's energy, isn't it? I mean, the mother she can have 12 children. One has a bad day and murders somebody and goes to prison, and that mother will never give up on that child. And that mother will always, regardless. But yeah, and also the number one universal law, essentially what goes around comes around, and nobody gets to skip any any steps here. But
No,
but I find
karma
that,
is
yeah. Yeah,
is the punishment.
yeah. I mean, well, it is what it is. I mean, we're our own judge, essentially, because But anyway, I find this fascinating for a lot of reasons. I'm getting chills because, first of all, it fits the timeline that I've been hearing from the folks coming on the show, from my partner, from several other people, that kind of like well, we know what January was rough, February was rough at the human level, and then as we get into the equinox, we have another eclipse, then we have the equinox, and we start to go into Easter, that things are really going to start to clear up, and some of us can feel it already, but yeah. So this is, and then the other thing I really love about this story. And this is one thing that, like Alicia Brochet and I talk about every 2 weeks. There's a lot of these narratives are now starting to be put on the table, and the fluffy love and light thing in the light worker circles is kind of going away because we've got to look at this. Everyone will have to look at everything because that's part of our journey. So it's nice to be able to have a conversation when we keep the soul. The soul is part of the subject matter, because so many of these disclosure and conspiracy platforms that I see, I wouldn't call them clickbait, but they're kind of sensationalistic. They talk
Yeah.
about the topic and the atrocities, but they don't talk about the redemption, and they don't talk about the power of the I am soul and the collective soul that we are in this physical / non-physical multidimensionality. Thank you. God, that came out of nowhere.
And I would love to expand on that if I may,
Please do.
because
That's why you're here.
yeah, it's like basically it's hang on, hello. Come in, yeah. Sorry, my daughter wants to come into the room. Sorry about that. So if I was to put it into a nutshell, as you said, the Great Mother loves everyone and everything. The Great Mother's love loves the murderer, the psychopath. She loves all her children equally. And no matter what those beings have done, the mother's love is there. And the reason we're getting to see everything right now is because it's all part of the ascension process. I was just talking to a group of what I would call the Council of the Divine Mothers earlier. We've kind of gone a bit shaky, Todd. I don't know if the frequency has been, the bandwidth's gone down, but I hope you can hear what I'm
Oh
about to
no,
say.
everything's fine. Everything's fine. You're good.
And okay, good. So the reason that everything's coming up, my teacher used to tell me this. She used to say to me, look, when this time hits, you need to be poised and ready. And you're already going to go through the journey well before humanity hits the mainstream with all this information. So, if you like, you're going to be a way shower and someone that works with the heart frequencies and that holds the mother frequency, because there's many beautiful divine mothers here on the planet doing exactly the same work. And I take my hat off and salute them all. They're doing incredible work. And the reason that this time is coming is that we're starting to see the global shadow. And the global shadow is something that we have to own within ourselves. Now, I went through in 2012 to 2015, I went through a process. I'm not going to say live what that is, but I went through what I would call the Christed initiation. And that was to see the truth, to hold the truth, to know who I am inside, to be certain of the love that I am, and to witness the other side, the other side of the light, the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the freaking adrenochrome barrel, the shadow, and to go, shit, that's me too. Because how can we know oneness? How can we go into unity consciousness if we've not had lifetimes where we've done this stuff? And many of us have done this stuff to map it out as well for this time to be able to come in as way showers and say, look, it's not all love and light. We have to look at this stuff. Now, it's one thing to go in within your own shadow. It's another thing to go onto Instagram and go to a discretion advised post and listen to an audio of a baby being raped. I do not recommend that. I do not recommend you looking at Frazzle Drip or anything that's going to come out. I really don't recommend that at all, because that is totally traumatizing and will create a thing called soul shock, because I've been through it. And it is not pretty, and it will really affect your mental health. What you need to do now is go inside and do your shadow work. Look at the black mirror that has been projected to you by all the systems, the matrices, the medical systems, the judiciary, the police. Everything that exists right now is the shadow piece that is wanting to be acknowledged. And to receive your forgiveness, once you bring the light of forgiveness of the mother, even the Ho'oponopono is a wonderful way to do that. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me and thank you. One guy went in, Hugh Len, Dr. Hugh Len, or whatever his name was, and healed a whole mental ward with that proposition of owning the shadow of those mental patients that had, some of them had gone out and killed people. They'd gone out and done dreadful things. And we're being asked now to bring all of this into our consciousness and to love it unconditionally. And as we love it unconditionally, it starts to dissipate, and the old world disappears, and the new world is here in frequency and form for you to walk into. And it's hard. It's really freaking hard to do. Any Christed initiation is not pretty, but the whole planet is going through what I call the Christed initiation right now.
Yes, yes, yeah. We speak the same language. Thank you for bringing this to light. I want to keep going with it. I just want to say that, I love doing this show because it connects a lot of dots for me. And I reawoke in 2011, and I chose to go on the street for the first 2 years to solidify my soul. And it's I've talked about this a couple times, but I went down to those grimy, greasy corners for energetically speaking, 2,000 nights, 1,000 nights in hell, 2 times.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was very much, I think the most important part of what that 2 year period was, which I call a spirit walk. And it wasn't until I realized that, so to speak, the devil and his minions couldn't kill me. And then but I fell back in for a second thousand nights. And the reason was because I couldn't leave until I owned them. And I learned a great lesson. And then I had 3 different bouts of integrating or bringing to 0 point the darkest of the dark and the lightest of the light. And I learned something about the soul, that I can stand in front of anything, be it the darkest of the dark or the lightest of the light, and I can say, I am sovereign, I am soul. And actually Mother Mary taught me that after a 1-week initiation. But I'm grateful that you're bringing this subject matter up and bringing it up in a way that carries the mother's frequency. One of the greatest moments I ever had in 4,500 shows was interviewing a lady who had a wake up. She was from Australia, and she was working with sex trafficking victims. And I said to her, "What are they like?" And she said, "Well, they're the most compassionate, loving people you will ever meet." And she told me this one story about this lady that was kidnapped at like 9 or 10, escaped at 21, recaptured at 23 or 24, and escaped again at 27. And she used her as an example because what she said, when the lady walked in, she let her know that, yes, she'd been traumatized, but she said, "I want you to know I have total compassion for these victimizers." And it just blew my mind, because so much of what we, especially now, so much of what we're gaining is not coming through the verbalization, it's coming through the energy of the heart, right? So thank you for letting me say that. Please continue.
Yeah. Well, the question is, how can we know oneness if we haven't played both playbooks of dark and light? And we're not actually here to fight against dark and light. We're here to merge that within us, which is what's the hieroscamus principle, which my beloved and I work with every day. And I just want to tell you a bit of a story, actually, because, 12,000 years ago, quite a few benevolent military galactic generals got together. I suppose it was around the time of Atlantis. And, you know, they had to do something for the greater good, because the AI and everything else, the dark AI, not divine intelligence through the heart, but the manipulated synthetic stuff that, has been a big problem in many universes over a lot of time. They had to make a very snap decision, a bit like Ender's Game. I don't know if you know that movie, but at the end, they've all been trained up and everything else to kind of like destroy this, incoming invasion. And so these benevolent generals had to make a decision. Do we plunge Gaia and her sisters and about 30 other solar systems down into a black hole to save the entire universe from this level of infiltration? And they did. And they pushed the button, and Gaia, the Earth, the whole solar system, and 30 other solar systems went down into a black hole. And that's why we're in hell. The good news is we're about 90% out of that black hole right now, which is called ascension. It's called planetary ascension. And there are many, many galactic teams, many earthly teams, a lot of ground crew here, including yourself, Todd, whether you're aware of it or not. We're all working in synchronicity. Many of us don't know each other, but then we make Facebook posts and other people come in and go, yes, this is just what we were doing. It's all synchronizing in to pull Gaia out of the black hole and back into her rightful place in the universe, which is the jewel in the crown as the goddess frequency, and bringing all of her sisters with her and her brothers as well. It's a very much a divine reunion in every way. And the way that was executed here on the planet was to bring in several monads, if you like, of the beloved frequency. So I'm talking about 144 soul. Here, there's one sector, then we have another sector, and we've got 13 of those 144 monads working around the planet in hieroscamus, in that divine plasma creation, to pull her out. And literally, we're 90% there. We're very close now. So, whatever you see coming up in the next days, weeks, even a month, It's not going to be long until we're fully out of this. Just find a level of compassion and love for some beautiful beings that got absolutely duped. They had their God seed taken away from them. They became victimizers because that's all they knew, because they were abused when they were children, and they grew up and that's the only thing they knew as their first sexual experience, was to go and do whatever had happened to them. We have to know that there is compassion and there is spiritual equity and karma, of course, for whatever hurt that they've caused. They will be held accountable. But we have to rationalize that within our own psyche to realize that if we're going to go into oneness, we have to merge the dark and the light. We have to merge the good and the bad. We have to bring that higher scammous frequency of 0 point energy into this observation mode. And of course, as we observe, we're in the Godhead frequency. We're very powerful, creative beings, and we have the ability to alchemize this. As they say, no mud, no lotus, right? So everyone is being called to receive the grace of Mother, Father, God right now, and to bring this eagle eye observer perspective into whatever's happening, and to send it unconditional love, because that's how we get into the new earth.
Yeah, here, here. Well said. I mean, I've known for years that you cannot divorce yourself from any aspect of the universe. How can I love anything outside of me more than I love myself, and vice versa, if it's truly love, which that's all there is. But yeah, I think this is a great discourse because I was a bit shocked, and again, I have to step back, as we all do, into that observer mode, reflection mode, and not put up a post or make a statement, because I was a bit put off with this information that we know is superficial, and it's got to come out. The positions, the extreme polarities and self-righteousness in these very groups that we have been a part of for all these years, to see politics, to see narratives, to see the finger pointing at different, come on now. We are the 0 point field, period, end of story. And we can either walk the talk or shut the fuck up, because this is game time now. And my soul told me that on February the 11th.
I love that. And
She
it's
said,
true.
it is. Well, my soul came in on February 11th in the middle of a pretty wild period for me. And thank you, Ray, and so many people that assisted me at that time. And as that wasn't my objective. But my soul came in and said, you think that the universe lit a fire under your ass in May 30th, 2011, when Jesus came through the trees and everything started? Well, I got news for you. And this is my soul talking, which is me, which is just, you got to be transparent, right? Said, I am not fucking around anymore. It's time to walk the talk, and we're going to get behind you and be fearless and be confident. And what's crazy is, since that time, which is 15 days, 2 weeks, I have seen more coherence, more cohesion, less fragmentation in the connections that I've been having and these shows. And even last night when I went to bed, I couldn't sleep. The energy's just been nuts, right? And I'm connecting and I'm hearing, you don't understand yet, but you're about to. The power of the individual, the power of where two or more gather, and in particular, they were showing me these shows. They said, it doesn't matter how many followers, it doesn't matter how many views. You guys are pulsating through these individual and collaborative efforts throughout the earth, and you have been the entire time. And now your spiritual confidence is about to kick in. So it's a very, very powerful time, and it's just such a blessing and a privilege and an honor to be in this space right now. That's all I can say.
No, Todd. Well, it doesn't come easy to sit and say these words. You've got to go through it. And I've been through the mill. I'm part of what they call the Blue Rose Order, which is a Magdalene order. I carry a fractal of the Magdalene, or Magdalene, as you guys say. There's about 30 of us holding that frequency on the planet with our beloveds. And whether we're in physical union or not, we're all working together. Like, it's a huge, massive team effort working at this time. We all committed at a soul level to do that. And it's been utterly horrendous from the minute I got here to all the trials and tribulations I went through. I won't go through them now, but I don't want to bore you, but it's horrendous. But we have to go through that level of horrendousness to be able to have compassion and empathy for humanity right now that is going through it too. And I was just holding a beautiful circle before we came on. Actually, it was my third call of the day, where we're getting together a Divine Mother's Council. And we're going to be looking at how we home educate the children, how we allow the children to come to this earth now, the master builders of the new earth, to come in unharmed, not vaccinated, not augmented DNA, to be able to open up, by the time they're 4, their full spectrum DNA potential. And what will that do? So we're calling now the mother frequency together and the divine fathers to come and share information about the downloads and the frequencies and everything else that we envision for the new earth. So there's a wonderful new beginning happening. It's not the end of the world. It's the end of the matrix. It's the end of control. It's the end of, the perpetuation of violence and disgusting stuff that's been happening to humans, especially women and children, who are half the planet. If you're hurting women and children, you're hurting half of humanity. And that is not allowed anymore by divine will and divine law. So divine law is back on the planet. We have a lawful instrument called the Declaration of Divine Sovereignty. I think you and I spoke about that many, many years ago. And that will eventually replace the birth certificate, because the birth certificate is the evil twin, if you like, that's made upon us with the heel prick test when we got here as babies. And that's the reality they've been using. They've been using our twin energy to create this false reality and this illusion and duping and false matrix. And so all of that's crumbling, it's falling away. The more that you observe from the observer, and the more that you can educate yourself on the living man and the living woman, the Christ and the Christos within you that walks the earth, actually has 2 feet. There's not a 2D piece of paper that has your name on it. Then we will be shifting massively. And that's all in the pipeline. It's all going to be really, really good. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it sounds like we're in the home stretch here. I mean, if I refer back to those prognostications and I guess you would call them prophecies and, things that people have been shown, kind of like you were saying earlier, we don't always know each other, but you find yourself seeing things that are correlating with what you're receiving, and that seems to have really increased. But that timeline seems to be what is essentially the next 12 to 14 months. And this even goes back to our friend and brother, Franco Di Nicola, who transitioned in October of 21. We did 50. We did 52 shows together, and he was as good as I've ever seen. I mean, he has full recall of other planets' lives and so many other things. But that was one of the things that he said. He said, come about this time, equinox of March 26th through about a year. Everything comes to the surface at that point, and it moves fast and furious. And I think that's probably where another thing my soul's been telling me is, do yourself a favor and stop trying to figure this out.
Right.
Yeah,
No.
You may know where you're going to be and end up, but stop trying to figure out what it's going to look like, and I still have that in me. I'm sure a lot of us do, but I look at this level of intelligence. I look at the level of intelligence and communion I've had on the beach, particularly the last few weeks, the divine episodes with animals, with planets, with the water, etc. I look at the intelligence of what you're talking about with these 3 calls today, and what you're working on, and these circles all around the world. And I think about the technology of CIA and all the other alphabet soups and all the tech and all that. We're coming from a whole different place here. Like even and they probably do know who we are, but even if they do, we're impervious, and we're impervious because of the power and the transparency of our heart, which is our mother. That is our mother. And I had the strangest thing the other night. I got to tell you this because I'm being told to. So when I go to the beach, it's all the mother, and I do that every day. But I stopped at the plaza in this little beautiful, authentic Mexican town last week, and I started looking around. It was late at night. And I started looking around. I thought, oh my God, they're all feminine. All the trees that were they're coconut trees. They're all feminine. And then I looked at this one. I was telling Ray this yesterday, and I never noticed it before. It was taller than all the other trees, and it was more like a pine or fir or something like that. And I look at the top, and I see this masculine face, because the mother had told me a few weeks earlier, as I'd been having these communions, she finally looked at me and said, "You realize you're me?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So now I'm and this is actually called the Park of the Grandmothers. That's the first thing they told me. Like, what do you think the name of the park is? So I look up at the tree, and at the top of it is this ancient face I've seen before, masculine. And he's like, I'm the father, I'm the masculine, almost scary kind of thing. And he says, it takes me through the same thing. He says, well, you're me. It's time to stand up. It's time to rock and roll. So I said to him, where's the mother at? How does that work with you? And I swear on my children, he had like this wing in front of him. This is a big tree. This is like probably 3 stories high. And this wing opens up, and there's this perfect opening in the middle. You can see a hole going right through it, and I can see his spine. I can see the trunk. And I started conversing with him. And as I would converse with him, he would open the heart for affirmative, or close it to keep going, Todd, keep going. But essentially what he was saying is, she's right here. And that to me speaks to it all. That speaks to it all, It really does, because like you said at the beginning, she loves it all. She has the 100%, 1,000%, 1,000,000% compassion, and we can do that too.
We can, because we're built in the image of that. We embody the mother and father within all of us, except we've forgotten. And I was just reading some of the thread there. Phoenix Returns, my beautiful Costa Rican sister, is asking about the Declaration of Divine Sovereignty. It's a little bit off topic, but the reason that we work with the blood is to release yourself, to remove yourself from the Luciferian blood covenants. It's all about blood. When we were crystalline, we didn't have blood. When we fell down into that black hole, we were given blood as an iron core, which became a food source for the ones that are leaving the planet right now through the tunnels and everything else we've been dealing with. So, when you go to the doctor, you blindly give blood, don't you? To think, and they only need 5 mils to test. They don't need 4 freaking 100 ml vials. Where do you think the other 400 ml goes, right? You go into an AI database, your DNA and your blood is owned, and you're in an AI database. And so the reason that we work with the blood, with the document, it's not satanic. Like Hieros Gammus is the divine version of Eyes Wide Shut. There are 2 sides to everything, right? And all of those are merging right now. So the blood is about pulling your DNA and your energy signature and your soul signature out of an AI database that was done when you were a baby, when you didn't have a meeting of minds, when you weren't able to coherently give your consent. A blood bond was taken off your heel, which represents hell, and it was sent on a Guthrie card and blood bonded into the Vatican, and you were then named a slave. And if you want to go and look up how long that's been going on, you go and look up Pope Boniface VIII and Unum Sanctum of 1302, which is a papal bull the Pope Boniface made in 1302, where he said all souls will be owned by Rome. And nothing has changed since then. So the declaration is here for you to take your soul out of that AI database, reclaim your bloodline, clear your ancestral lineage and your future progeny line all the way through into the new earth. It is a bridge document to get you there. And hopefully that answers part of your question, Phoenix, but there is a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I suppose that some of what we're doing, you might say, some of what we're achieving, well, a lot of it lately, is done in what we call dream state. There's a lot of stuff happening. I can't remember everything, but I know over these last few weeks, the level of lucid dreams has increased dramatically. The messages have increased dramatically. There's been a theme of organizing, preparing, also correcting, collaborating. That's been a big part of it. I've been working with a lot of people that have physically left the planet and also people that are on the planet, so that tells me that we're coming to that point. We're sustaining and starting to expand from that point of what is unity consciousness, what is the free energy of the soul, the free energy of the universe. And I think the other thing that I would point out, which I feel is something that could be a very big, because a lot of this is just simple. Well, ultimately this is awareness. And it feels like now when we come into awareness of a truth, because the truth frequency is so easy to spot now, there's an immediate transformation. I know my DNA has been going nuts for 2 weeks. But going back to what you were saying about the Rome thing in the 1300s and many other things, it helped me a lot anyway. Everything that I have seen in this realm has been a distorted version of universal design or universal order. And so that made it easier for me to work with integrating those two polarities in a dualistic polarity, which is even
Well,
much more.
it's like Stranger Things, the upside down world. We're coming out of it, but we have to. There's. It's not like it's all being taken care of, and all these teams are coming. Yes, there's incredible help happening and amazing stuff going on, and teams doing incredible work. But each human soul has to take self governance and self responsibility for their own ascension. It is not going to be done automatically for you. It's a personal choice, because if it was done automatically for you, we're no better than the forces we're trying to remove from the earth right now, because you have to have a choice. My teacher always said to me, every soul has a choice. Otherwise, it's called black magic. So you have to take responsibility for your own ascension. You have to unhook yourself from these blood covenants and contracts and unum sanctums and papal bulls and all the divine laws that have been violated for millennia. You have to learn about this stuff, and we will be doing a Divine Sovereign Academy, probably March or April, where people can come in and find out about all of this. But it's complex. They didn't make it easy. They did not make it easy for you to escape this realm. And even though we've got planetary ascension, we've also got our own individual ascension. And that is, how much can we take before we collapse the duality into oneness by observing the other side of actually the shadow part of all of us that exists. And I'm not going out and saying go and look at all the videos and stuff. Don't do it. It's just awful. But take ownership that we've all been part of this experiment, divine plan, everything that's been happening. And now we come into the inner authority, which is our heart. Our heart is the teacher. Our heart is the oracle. Our heart is the mother and father in divine union and balance and hieros gammas within us. They are the greatest teachers, not the outward authority or, dare I say, the Deepak Chopras that are being exposed right now. It's about coming home to yourself and to your divine governance and your own divine self responsibility. That is Ascension 101 right there.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Touche. And, I told Ray this yesterday, about a week ago, because seriously, the communions I've had in the last 2 weeks have just been off the charts. There's been a lot of things happen, but that's all normal for all of us now. But
Right.
one of the
Yeah,
things that
normal.
one of the things that happened was the you, me, we, and it came in and said, "You do realize that the world as a whole is up to you." And I really understood that in that moment. I understood that self accountability, self responsibility, autonomy, all the virtues of the soul, being that kingly presence, justice, everything in equal, and so on. Yeah, I know that sounds like a godlike statement, but it's not. We all have, and we don't understand the math or the geometry, the micro, the macro, as within, without, but it's truly our choice. And that's why it's so important, I think, for you, for instance, stepping up and being willing to talk about these things openly when there is so much division. But we've got to understand we can no longer blame the division and separation on the system. We have to
No.
take responsibility for ourselves. So, I say people talk about Trump deranged syndrome. I could care less. But what I've noticed is if they're on one side or the other, they've got Trump deranged syndrome. They think it's just with the people that are against them, but it's also the people that are for him. But another thing I am seeing as Franco talked about, he said at this time, he said that it will become so ridiculous that that's what will turn, people. Because I
Yeah.
asked, I asked him one time, I said, well, so what is the mentality of these bad actors? Now he's speaking from a above the realm kind of perspective. And he said, well, think about it. Their job is to cause the friction, create the chaos until what? Until the mirror wakes up, until the mirror
Totally.
takes full responsibility. So, I just want to say thank you for being willing to talk about these things. And I think hopefully the gates open now, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to jump into these subjects, because I think it's very important.
Yeah, it totally is. It's not easy to talk about because sometimes the human consciousness that's stuck in the 3D is still in the polarity consciousness, which is normally caused through extreme trauma. And there are a lot of people on the planet that are still very traumatized and they need help. So, I was just working with the Divine Mother Council earlier, and we were like, what do we do? Okay, well, we need to look at homeschooling our children rather than sending them to indoctrination centers, or we need to look at natural food and health and things that we put on our bodies. And just the collaborative call that we had before this interview call we're doing, Todd, was incredible, where so many women were willing to take responsibility and head up like a vertical market like education or skincare, or just basic stuff that we all need to do in the new earth, and what is good for us and what is wholesome and what helps us get rid of the heavy metal detoxing and all that kind of stuff that we need to do. So it's all hands on deck, everyone. It's not just like us on our own isolated. It's about coming together in like-hearted, like-minded groups and being able to resonate and make this world a better place than the one we're looking at right now, because it is freaking horrendous what we're looking at. But now it's all being revealed. This is what apocalypse means. It means the great revealing. And now we have to look at it with the eyes of Mother, Father, God and say, okay, this is a world we don't want anymore. And
Well, that's
here's the
it.
one we do.
Yeah,
Here's
that's
the one we
it.
do want, which is created through our heart and our imagination active, and lift the lid of all of this control and
Yes.
darkness. It's
Yes.
time to
I
go
mean,
home.
yeah, I mean, that's it right there. We make the choice right here. Well, when I say right here, I mean what I was told, and that's just my own thing. When I woke up, it was, all that came out of my mouth was, I am soul. I am soul. And I said, what is that? They said, it's the heart and mind of spirit. Okay, so that's a
Yeah.
one thing, right? And, but anyway, yeah, it's game time, and to be able to talk about these subjects and get away from the salaciousness and the sensationalism and the disclosure. And I'm tired of people saying, "I fucking told you so." Look, my soul told me that when we get to the other side, no one's going to be able to say, "I told you so." Okay, this is much more complex than even the most tapped in people on the planet can grasp. I mean, we're talking about infinite power, infinite love, infinite compassion, infinite creativity. And I still go with the five things my soul tells me every other day which is spontaneous, intuitive, creative, imaginative, and courageous.
And
And
guess
yet,
what?
yes,
Guess what, Todd? The technology has always been right here.
that's right.
We just have to learn how to use it properly. It's called DI, Divine Intelligence, and it is way more powerful than any freaking AI supercomputer singularity that's happening right now. We are the singularity of divine love. Now it's time to navigate this thing and learn how to use it properly. And that's where we're going, because that's where the self-responsibility and the self-governance starts, and then you start to co-create heaven on earth, and it is going
That's
to
right.
be freaking amazing.
Yeah, I put up a post because you can see it coming. Like every day, a little drip here, a little drip there. But it was the day they had, because I don't put up a lot of posts like that anymore. But it was the day they arrested Prince Andrew, and everybody was hoopla. Oh, here it goes, here it goes.
17
And of
or
course,
whatever it was.
a few hours later, he gets released, and it's not even about the really bad stuff. It was about uh, nation secrets or whatever they shared. So I put a post up and I said, this is just another, give them crumbs, Stockholm syndrome. We've been through this. Let's focus, refocus, because it all happens right here, and we are the tech. As within, without, and that's a very good point, because that's another thing, like we talked about earlier. Everything that's presented to us is a distortion of the divine structure, the divine design, the universal laws. It's distorted, right?
Yeah.
So the tech that we're looking at is a poor reflection of our
Right.
infinite divine
It's like a
intelligence. Right?
zillionth of a fraction of what we're all capable of. It really is. Wow. What a great talk this evening, Todd. It's been such an honor to be with you, and so many profound truths. Thank you for pulling it out of me, because it's not easy sometimes to sit there and go, well, what are we going to talk about? There's so many things we could have done, but we just jumped straight into the divine profundity of what's about to happen. And that is God's grace in action. So thank you.
Thank you. And why don't we just come together in communion before we head out of here? I guess I'll start, and then you can finish it up. So everybody, join us in the circle of life, and together we stand here. And with us is our guides and angels and all the universal family, as concentric circles ring around ring around ring around ring. And in the middle of it all, we place the beautiful Mother Gaia. And in this eternal moment, the only moment that exists, with the angels above us, sighting this moment, we project all of our love and compassion, heart and soul and spirit onto, which is really the heart of us all, Mother Earth, in love and light and love and light, love and light.
And so as we see the Great Mother, we see ourselves, we see our heartbeat, we see her as a sentient being. And as we come through our own heart, through the flower, the flame, and the pearl into the high heart, we realize that Gaia is the pearl of our high heart. She is the sentient life force. We're having this beautiful symbiotic relationship and love affair with the Mother. And may she always feel our love, our resonance, as she beams that back right to us, straight into the high heart, the thymus, the pearl, where the entire universe is waiting for you to discover again. And so it is.
So it is. So it is. We have to do this again.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, we have to do this again. This is fantastic. This is really needed. Thank you for stepping up, and thank you for sending me a message and saying, "Did you message me?" But that's
Did
that
you
above.
message?
That's that above That's that above. I can't stop crying. What the hell's going on?
Oh,
But
darling,
that
I love you.
that's that telepathy thing's really been taken on. There's so much evidence of what's going on. But listen, I know it's late over there. Thank you everybody for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with Tori. Can't remember her last name, from New Zealand. Everybody knows her. Y'all are all connected. And Alicia Brochet. Yeah, y'all take care, and blessings of peace, grace, and love to you and your beautiful partner and your beautiful family and your endeavors and everybody else out there. Peace out. Thank you.
Todd, love you so much. Mwah.